Okay, let's unpack this. We're looking at a single pedagogical resource from Portugal that started as a local math club activity.
Right.
Then it got adapted into a full theatrical production, was used in a National Mathematics Olympiad, and finally evolved into a custom-built AI chatbot. That's quite a trajectory.
It really is. Today, we are doing a deep dive into the source material around CSI Mathematica, Anatomia di Recurso. And this whole project, it's centered on just one character, Zero Pi O Agente Irracional.
The irrational agent.
Exactly. And our sources are the author Sérgio Machado's own notes on how it started, the methodology, and, its whole evolution. It's all formally housed on the Casa das Ciencias website.
So our mission really is to figure out the secret sauce here. How does a single set of activities become so universally applicable and resilient to all this technological change?
I think what's critical is understanding the author's shift in motivation. See, Machado had a history of creating quick, effective teaching aids. He called them resources for urgent questions.
Those are like putting out fires.
Precisely. But he realized he was focused on immediate fixes, not on legacy. This current work, it marks a completely new phase for him. It's not just about providing the final product. It's about opening up the resource.
Opening it up, you mean showing the work, the messy bits.
That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. In his notes, he really emphasizes the need to reveal the doubts, the errors, the conversations, even the silences that led to its creation. He wanted teachers to understand the process. So we're tracking how that simple compilation of activities evolves into this comprehensive, multi-platform, and profoundly interdisciplinary tool.
Okay, that brings us to the beginning, the genesis of the irrational agent. The initial spark, 14 years ago, the author arrives at a new school, inherits the math club. Sounds pretty standard.
It sounds unassuming, but it became a phenomenon, and almost instantly it grew so fast, from maybe 10 students, that it soon required 2 dedicated rooms.
2 rooms.
2 rooms, and the help of 2 or 3 colleagues just to manage the dynamic flow of it all.
Wait, okay. If the activities were so exciting, why did his colleagues struggle to follow them? That feels like a contradiction.
Well, that points directly to the core of the resource.
Yeah.
It's transversality, or
Transversality.
yes, the activities didn't stay neatly within the lines of a standard math curriculum. They inherently involved music theory, artistic drawing, spatial geometry, storytelling.
So teachers who are comfortable with, say, just algebra found themselves way outside their comfort zone.
Way outside. So the very thing that was a challenge for the teachers became the strength for the students. It forced them to connect disciplines.
I see.
And you can see the foundation for this in his initial passion project at that school. He painted M.C. Escher's Metamorphosis directly onto a huge school wall.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was learning and applying the math of isometries, translations and transformations, as he was painting.
That's incredible. A massive art installation as the origin of a teaching philosophy. So the Escher connection, that's why tessellation and visual geometry are so central later on.
Absolutely. That visual, hands-on methodology, it just stuck. By 2012-2013, the approach expanded into primary schools. It was called Acorda para a Matemática.
Awakening for mathematics.
Right, and this project was explicitly recreational. It used physical materials, tangram puzzles, rulers, paper folding, just to make math feel like play.
And it was the success of consolidating all these different recreational challenges that finally required a story to tie it all together.
Correct.
And that's when the star was born.
The need to structure the experience, to give the students a unified mission, led directly to the creation of Zero Pi High, the irrational agent, a narrative context that suddenly made geometry feel, well, urgent.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's get into the narrative framework itself. The story, Zero Pi O Against a Rationale, it's set just after this big assault on the Museum of Mathematical Challenges.
It's the perfect setup for a quest, isn't it? The museum director, Mona Luisa, she calls in the famous detective Sherlock Hombres and his assistant, Zero Pi, to follow the clues.
And every single clue is a math problem.
A complex one. And the brilliance is that these challenges cover content from primary school all the way up to early secondary.
Okay, let's walk through the detective work. What's the first clue?
The first clue is a classic, a buffet of 8s. The challenge is to use 8 8s summed together to equal 1,000.
So it's basic addition, but you have to think outside the box.
You do. It requires clever number manipulation.
Yeah.
Knowing you can use 88 or 88 at 88. It immediately sets the tone that this requires flexible thinking, not just rote calculation.
Right. So once that's solved, Sérgio Machado looks down and he finds the second clue. Smiling cats tiled across the floor. perfectly interlocking.
And this is that direct payoff from the author's Escher-influenced tessellation. Students have to recognize the pattern uses isometries, specifically translations.
So they're not just looking at a pretty pattern.
No, they have to actively map it, often using GeoGebra software and regular hexagons. They're turning a visual puzzle into a demonstration of real geometric principles.
Why just GeoGebra specifically?
Because it bridges the concrete with the abstract. You're not just looking at cats. You're actively manipulating the geometry. You're applying concepts like vectors or translations, which is, foundational for higher geometry.
So looking up from the floor, the third clear is on the walls. Strange trees formed only by triangles.
That introduces geometric sequences, self-similarity. Students get a very precise instruction. Build these trees by decreasing the area of the triangles at each step and joining them at the smallest angle.
Okay, well, they have to identify and then replicate a pattern. It's moving from simple shapes to complex numerical relationships.
Exactly.
The fourth challenge sounds completely different, much more tactile. A mathematical lock with 3 holes, circular, square, and cross-shaped.
This is spatial geometry at its absolute best. 00 Pi needs to carve a single key that can fit through all 3 shapes.
How is that even possible?
Well, it requires students to visualize in 3 dimensions, to understand cross-sections and intersection volumes, and they have to physically make it, usually with clay or plasticine.
So it links math directly to manual arts.
Yes, a crucial part of the interdisciplinarity.
Okay, next up, the music room, the 5th clue. 0 Pi hears an 11-note piano sequence.
Mi do fa do sol re la sol mi sol. He instantly recognizes it as the music of pi, but he notes the final note is wrong.
The music of pi.
Yeah, it's a beautiful integration of history and numbers. When students convert the notes to numbers, do is 1, re is 2, and so on, they see the sequence is 3.14159, the first digits of pi.
Ah, so the incorrect final note is the clue. It forces them to actually know the pattern of pi's digits.
And it connects musical patterns to number theory. It's just brilliant.
Moving to the ceiling, the 6th clue. Fresh paint revealing strange hexagons making curves.
That's a lesson in drawing, curve stitching. 0 Pi recognizes it as a technique where you connect dots in a specific sequence to create the illusion of a curve using only straight lines. A visual reminder that geometry underpins art.
And finally, the climax. Challenge 7. The culprit is escaping, and they're boasting they can reach the moon just by folding an A4 sheet of paper 42 times.
This is just an iconic, unforgettable way to teach exponential growth.
I mean, it sounds impossible.
It does, until students do the math. The source material lays it out. A standard A4 sheet is about 0.1 millimeters thick, 42 folds.
It must be a lot.
It's over 439 billion millimeters, which is astronomically more than the 384,000 kilometers to the moon. It makes an abstract power of 2 function feel tangible and, frankly, mind-boggling.
So who was the culprit?
The ultimate perpetrator is the fearsome incognita.
The unknown.
A great metaphor.
Yeah.
She suffers from isolation, and the only way to contain her is to place her in a solution set. And then the whole thing is revealed to be a dream, with the student shouting the starting signal for a race. Point 3014.
So let's switch gears to the pedagogy. For any educators listening, what does this actually look like in a classroom? What's the non-negotiable part that makes it work?
Well, it's highly flexible for the audience, but the core method is rigid for a good reason. It is fundamentally a hands-on collaborative activity. The author insists on a minimum of 90 minutes.
90 minutes? Why so long?
Because the video of the narrative has to be paused at each of the 7 challenges.
The pause is mandatory. And what happens then, in that time?
Students, usually in pairs, have to solve the problem on their own. Before 0 Pi shows them the solution. This mandated period of discussion, collaboration, even struggle, that silence the author mentioned, that's the key.
It prevents them from just passively watching.
Exactly. It emphasizes the process, not just getting the right answer.
That sounds pretty demanding. What kind of skills do you need coming in?
That's the beauty of its design. You need basic arithmetic, sure, reading skills, some geometry basics, but you also need fine motor skills for the 3D key and the ability to link music to numbers. It's designed to engage multiple types of intelligence at the same time.
It obviously connects to art and visual education with the Escher influence. How does it manage to bridge over to something like linguistics?
By giving them a mission. The collaborative discussion you need to solve the clues, that strengthens oral expression. And the theatrical adaptations to show it can support writing and drama. You could easily challenge students to write their own 0 Pi missions.
That ability to jump mediums is fascinating. Let's talk about its real-world evolution, because the challenges actually left the classroom.
They did. In 2017, they were integrated into the national final of the Portuguese Mathematics Olympiads.
So, for the top students in the country.
Yes, but they weren't just test questions. They were physical clues placed in the historic streets of Viseu that finalists had to find and solve. It proves the math is robust enough for elite competition.
And the narrative literally took on a life of its own. It became a 50-minute stage play.
CSI Matematica Calculo Sob Investigación, yeah. Music students actually composed the music of Pi for it. It just kept fostering that genuine interdisciplinarity. Then it was adapted into English for an Erasmus Plus project, proving the story works across cultures.
Then the pandemic hit, and everyone went online.
And he adapted again. He created an Animoji avatar of Zero Pi to use as a digital tool, just to keep the character's presence alive during remote learning.
But the most recent step is the most ambitious. A personalized GPT.
A custom AI agent,
Yeah.
named Zero Pi, the irrational agent. And the goal of that AI, it's the ultimate scaling of his original concept.
Which is?
The AI generates short, engaging stories to explain scientific concepts, just like the museum heist, and then it immediately quizzes students with multiple choice questions tied to that story. It uses narrative to make learning sticky and interactive.
This sounds like exactly the kind of innovation the Ministry of Education would want to promote heavily. What was their response?
The sources indicate it was. What a deeply frustrating response. The author presented the GPT to the ministry, but he reported they unfortunately failed to grasp its potential.
They just didn't get it?
They didn't get it. And this failure to recognize or invest in the tool was made worse by the fact that the original resource was copied by another online page.
Wow. So that's a profound institutional failure, isn't it? To disregard a resource that's been proven for over a decade just because the newest format is AI.
It really speaks to the slow pace of institutional adoption versus rapid pedagogical innovation. But despite those setbacks, the recognition is there. It's on the Casa das Ciencias website, and it was a finalist for Best Educational Resource of the Year. Its success is a grassroots triumph, really.
So to synthesize this deep dive, we've tracked the life cycle of one idea, 00 Pi. We've seen how integrating art, storytelling, and math transformed simple club activities into this multi-format educational powerhouse.
It really proves that framing difficult concepts, like irrational numbers or complex geometry, within a compelling mystery makes the material engaging and memorable.
It turns the abstract into something solvable.
Absolutely. But if you connect this to the bigger picture, the greatest challenge posed by 00 Pi isn't actually solving the math puzzles.
What is it then?
It's realizing that even today, when a pedagogical tool like this is created, one that is proven, flexible, and embraces new tech like AI, its potential can still be overlooked by the very institutions designed to foster learning. What happens to the future of education when the agents of change, the people building these blueprints for success, are left to go it alone? That's the real question this resource leaves us with.
A thought-provoking challenge for you to consider. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.